You've heard the name, right? Atlantis. For more than 2,000 years, it's been this legendary ghost, a story of a world lost forever beneath the waves. Well, today, we're going deep. We're diving into the myth, the science, and yeah, even the conspiracy of the lost city of Atlantis.
But what if that story, the one we've all kind of written off as just a cool piece of fiction, what if it was actually a memory? For centuries, the tale of Atlantis has been stuck in the fantasy section. But what if the reason it vanished wasn't just because of the ocean, but because somebody wanted it hidden?
To really get to the bottom of this, we have to travel way back to the very beginning of the story. And our journey starts not with some treasure hunter, but with one of the most famous thinkers in all of human history. Now, here's the thing. This story isn't some fuzzy campfire tale passed down through whispers. Nope. The entire legend of Atlantis comes from just one source, the Greek philosopher Plato, writing around 360 BCE. And he didn't just describe some primitive little village. He painted this picture of a total superpower, a magnificent island nation with technology and architecture that was light years ahead of everyone else. But this incredible story of a perfect society, well, it doesn't have a happy ending. In fact, it's a horror story. Plato tells us that this brilliant civilization, right at the peak of its power, met a very sudden, very violent end. According to Plato, it wasn't a slow fizzle. No, this was fast, like terrifyingly fast. He wrote that in the span of a single awful day and night, the island was rocked by massive earthquakes and hit by unimaginable floods. And then, poof, the entire continent of Atlantis just sank beneath the waves, gone forever. For hundreds, even thousands of years, that was it, just a fascinating story. But then, modern science stumbled onto something. A real-world catastrophe from the ancient world that sounds disturbingly familiar, and it suddenly breathed new life into this old legend. So check this out. Around 1600 BCE, a volcano on the island of Thera, which we now call Santorini, blew its top with unbelievable power. We're talking one of the biggest volcanic eruptions in recorded history. It created enormous tsunamis that would have wrecked the Mediterranean. Now here's the kicker. Plato was writing about Atlantis over 1,000 years after this eruption actually happened. And that brings us to the big question, the heart of this whole theory. Could the story of Atlantis just be a distorted memory? An echo of the very real trauma of the Minoan civilization getting wiped out by that volcano? A story passed down for 1,000 years until it became the legend Plato wrote down. Okay, so the Santorini connection is pretty mind-blowing, right? But hold on, because that's not all. The search for Atlantis gets even stranger when we look at what our modern technology is finding deep in the ocean. All around the globe, from the coast of Spain to the Caribbean, our deep-sea sonar is picking up weird stuff. I'm talking about strange, perfectly geometric patterns on the ocean floor, formations and anomalies that they don't look natural at all. Now, nobody's saying for sure that's Atlantis, but these discoveries definitely fuel that hope that somewhere out there, the ruins are waiting. But before we all grab our scuba gear, we gotta pump the brakes and look at what most historians and archaeologists actually think. And, well, they're pretty sure Atlantis never even existed. So here's the split. The mainstream view says Plato just made it all up. Not as a lie, but as a political fable, a cautionary tale for Athens about the dangers of becoming too powerful, too arrogant, too corrupt. In this view, Atlantis is a brilliant thought experiment about a perfect society that destroys itself, not a history lesson about a real place. So we have the legend, the possible real-world disaster, and the skeptical scientific view. But there's one more theory, a much stranger, much darker theory, that says we are all asking the wrong questions. This is where the story takes a serious left turn. This theory suggests Atlantis was 100% real, and that its true history has been actively, deliberately suppressed, that it didn't just disappear under the waves, it was erased. The idea here is that what destroyed Atlantis wasn't a volcano or an earthquake, it was people. It was a conscious effort to literally wipe its memory off the face of the earth. But why? Why on earth would anyone do that? Well, think about what it would mean. If we found undeniable proof of a lost, highly advanced civilization that came before all the ones in our history books, it would break everything. Our whole step-by-step story of human progress would be wrong.
This theory claims that kind of truth is just too dangerous. It would shatter the foundations of history, of religion, of our place in the universe. A truth so powerful, it had to be buried.
So in the end, when we look at our own powerful, advanced, and, let's be honest, fragile civilization, the legend of Atlantis is like looking in a mirror. It forces us to ask, is the real mystery finding a sunken city? Or is it about whether any civilization, no matter how great, can really escape its own downfall? The ultimate question isn't just about their fate, it's about ours.